The sense of I is important because it helps you develop yourself, your self-awareness, your sense of self, which is connected to your solar plexus. All right, because when you are a baby born into a family, you don't know anything. You're learning about life. You're learning. You're like a sponge, right? As I said before, the first 7 years are very important. Within that 7 years, you learn about yourself and you learn about others, right? You learn about that connection with family and yourself being your self identity, which is now activates your solar plexus when you get to understand that yes, I have preferences, I have needs outside from other people's needs and preferences. It's just a way of being human, right? It's an important part of us. However, as you're growing up, okay, you learn that you are not more important than other people in terms of in the collective, in the family. There's a family and there's a way we actually now communicate and live together. You understand? And you're not that important that other people's needs are not going to be fulfilled. They're going to be ignored. You learn how to balance things out. Family unity and family construction helps us to be more human, to understand that other people are just as important as us, that they also have needs as well, right? So as you grow up, you go to school, you learn about the other I people, people with their own I identities, and you learn how different you are and how similar you are to those people. Now that's your I identity, your ego now starts growing, okay? So if you're a child that's prevented from speaking her or his truth, your sense of I gets tempered with, it gets unbalanced, because remember, you need to be heard as a person with a self-complex and a self-identity. You need to be heard. You need to be recognized in your tribe. If there's some sorts of toxic behaviors and it's not healthy, then you learn toxic behaviors, and you also learn that sometimes in life you're not going to get all your needs met. How does that make you feel as a child when your parents say, I'm not going to buy you that new toy because it's too expensive? Now that's when you start learning that, oh, sometimes as human beings, we don't always get what we want. Now, if you parents that's breeding your children, or rather to say taking care of your children in a way whereby you're giving them every single thing they need without you saying, or not what they need, but what they want. Remember, there's needs and there's wants, okay? Needs and wants. A want is something that you don't need, you can do without, right? Now, it's at home, we learn about the needs and the wants. We learn about, yes, my needs are going to be fulfilled: a place to sleep, a warm home, loving parents, safety, security, food to eat, all those things, clothes to wear. Those are all of your needs. All right, now we learn as we grow up as people, as children, we learn that there's needs and there's wants. Okay, my wants will not necessarily be fulfilled because they're only my wants, meaning that they're not that important as my needs. As your parents will say to you, okay, you want that PlayStation. I can't afford it. Maybe next year, maybe whenever later. I can't afford it now. But your food, when you want food, you really need to have food. So your parents will make sure that you have that food. Okay. Now you learn, you're evolving as a human being. You're learning all those things. Your sense of your sense of I is growing as well. You're understanding your desires may be different to your sisters and stuff. And it's okay for you to have different desires and stuff, right? So as you're growing up, now you go to high school, and then you go on, you go to university, or maybe you go start working in a workplace, and you also learn more about life, right? You learn more about life, you learn more, right? Then you understand, okay, my ego. So whatever you learned at home as a child, you carry through to high school, primary school, high school, to the workspace. At the workspace, now you really know how to be a human, how to communicate with other people, how to socialize with other people, and understand that yes, my needs are important too as well, but there's still other people around me that also need their needs met. Okay, then you understand things like sharing, giving, and sharing. All sense of the I complex, the I identity, right? Then you learn about religion, even when you were in high school, probably in primary school, depending on when your parents introduced you to religion, going to church or whatever. It normally starts at a very young age. So there you really learn all these things already, right? We learn about religion, how things work, this God, if it's Abrahamic religion, to learn about the God, the God that's there to judge us, and also one that provides us with everything, the God of the Bible, the God of the Torah, that's for the Jews, the God of the book for the Muslims. I can't remember, think of the book now, right? So you learn about all these things, and then you understand, okay, I am lesser than this God, right? That we are lesser than these gods. These are the things that you're learning as you're growing up. The sense of I is playing a big role there, right? So now, do you understand that in religion, okay, how does my I appear? In spirituality, how does my I appear? You understand all those things. So that's what we're talking about today. Now remember that it's your I, your ego, your sense of self. If it's too inflated and you're not able to take care of other people or even consider other people, and then you are becoming what we call selfish to the point of narcissist, where you're so narcissist and you only identify with your own needs, not other people's needs, then becomes a problem. So if you have that issue, and then whatever uh philosophy you follow, religion or spirituality, you're gonna carry that with you. You don't automatically become a narcissist because you joined a certain group, a church or a spiritual group. It's something that has always been there. It hasn't been balanced, so you carry it into your spiritual or your religious practices. That's how it works. Okay, now remember that we all want our needs met, but how you get your needs met are very important. You understand that when you want your needs met, you don't have to trample over other people's needs. Okay, you don't have to take other people's rights away and other people's freedoms away. There has to be boundaries all the time, right? That's what we learn as human beings. That's why we're speaking about the ego on the spiritual side and the religious person and the religious side. Okay, even if you are a very spiritual person, if your ego is not balanced and you don't understand that it needs to be a balance, right? Your ego is gonna be now running the show. And even if you're religious will do the same thing. Okay, like we can see in those churches where pastors are like kind of worship like they God. So you understand, because he's a pastor and he's a pastor of a very huge congregation, a huge church, an international church. He has jets, he has money, and all those things. Now that feeds the ego. It feeds the ego, becomes very toxic. And that can happen also in spirituality as well, because there are a lot of spiritual teachers too as well that are very affluent. They can afford private jets. They can afford all these material things. Right now, when you are actually now in spirituality only for the gain of the material wealth, then there's no balance there. Again, the ego's running the show basically, right? It's about you getting what you want and desire, not thinking that you're supposed to be of service. Okay, as I understand now in my spiritual part, even when I was a religious person in the church, I knew that I was serving people. I'm there to serve, right? Same, but now that I'm in spirituality, I'm a spiritual person. I don't belong to a religion, right? I'm here to serve. I understand that my ego is getting used, my sense of I is getting used by my soul to help others and to even help myself as well. Because when I help you, I help myself. Now you gotta balance things out all the time. Now that's the thing with ego. You have to um you know what I mean? Embrace your ego. Yes, it's there, but understand it's there for a purpose. And understand what it is to have a toxic ego and have a balanced ego. Now you kind of integrated within yourself, integrated, right? And understand that the ego can be used by the soul to be able to serve others and serve humanity, serve yourself as well, right? To raise yourself, your sense of self, to raise you and awaken yourself, right? Now we have things like what's currently going on in the Christian church, where people are speaking about this rapture and stuff like that, right? So the pastor said 23rd, 24th, it never happened.